And yeah, so the gist. OP, I suppose. What? Give me a bit of a rundown of your career, how long you've been playing, what are your goals in Overwatch, all that good stuff.
Mm, I've been playing since the start of when since the game came out, but then I stopped playing for a year. Um, I like recently came back like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I've been playing on console. I started playing on PC.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm trying to take the game seriously and be the best I can be.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yeah.
So, why did you choose this fight in particular? Is there anything you felt that was difficult in this game? Anything specifically you want me to focus on?
Um,
Are there any sort of just in general beyond this? Are there any weaknesses to your game that you think you really need to work on?
I think the main issue with us as a team and with me as well is we can't handle Sombra for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I chose this VOD because it does have Sombra, but it has a balance of everything. Like we play a bit of dive, we play a bit of goats, we play um bunker a bit. So
Mm-hmm.
like um I was hoping you could see like the different ways to play the different comps.
Mm-hmm.
Um and the other team had like they were pretty high at SAR as well, so if they would be able to punish any mistakes I do.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a look then, and we'll see. We'll see what we find.
Big potential. I feel like.
Yeah. They don't play in they don't play in GGNA, so their fucking map pool is kind of weird.
Yeah,
We
keep
should
talking.
go faster, right? That's
I
fine.
don't know if double sniper is a pick on this map.
I mean, if our snipers pop off, it's the pick.
Too.
If they
No, let's
get
just try it.
picks.
I don't think
See.
our Bastion has been too good so far, right? Well, it's been.
Yikes, that's mean.
Dude, I got gold damage every single game.
Well, I know, but like we played.
Part of our kit.
I know.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so you guys are playing double sniper bunker.
Cool.
We just need to
Outplay
we,
them.
we don't usually play it, but we decided to give it a try in Anubis because we don't usually play Anubis as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we just wanted since it was a scrim, we wanted to try new things
Okay.
and practice beforehand.
I'm not saying that like we should like give up or anything. I'm just saying.
What do they have? Is that a widow?
Yeah, whatever.
So, Courage has followed. Thanks for follow. In general, especially since Sombra is pretty popular in maps like these, it's obviously one of your biggest duties is to spy check as a diva, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be spamming as many potential pathways that she might be taking. So very important for you to position accordingly, because in reality, like the way you're standing now, you're only shooting through this pathway. The damage obviously you do here is negligible, so you're not doing this for damage. So until someone actually closes the distance on you, really, your job is just a spy check, and you can do a lot better. You can do a lot more from this position because you can shoot there. Because now, if you think about it, if you're the enemy Sombra, it's very, very easy for her to just walk this way. She can walk under you. She can walk right side around. She can even walk like this. She can take a million paths that you aren't interrupting by just shooting this, right?
Yeah.
So it's something important. Like if you look at the POVs of Overwatch League Sombra divas, they in these initial like in the beginning of fights, they're just shooting all over the place, right? Like just every little corner, just in case you might find them, because just interrupting one rotation by Sombra is huge. It's huge because it might buy you an extra fight. It might take her longer to set up. Someone else might make a mistake. Your snipers might get a pick, right? Because it's going to take longer for them to set up. And at the same time, you can also take damage back. So there's really no reason for you to not use the shield here and to just shoot into one tiny area.
All right.
And obviously the angles that you spam, you can also adjust. So if you say you're standing here spamming, you see that they have a Sombra, and in the first 15 seconds you haven't found her, then she's probably already behind you. In that case, you can probably start spamming that angle, right? So you just have to think about the time. When was the last time you saw the Sombra, and where could she potentially be based on our positions? because you will also be one of the primary hack targets. So you can start adjusting the angles that you spam. So spy checking, very very important that you add into your repertoire in these early situations.
Sure. Are they the right side?
Spy check right side, spy check right side.
They're probably gonna swap. No.
Their dive, their dive.
What's the jumping? What's the jumping? Careful the dive here.
Back up.
You just what's it now?
Pressure right now.
Yeah, I switched the angle a bit too late here, so.
Yeah, but then someone else call it, because that's something you can do as well. You know, like he said, spam spy check right side because he had walls on this side as well. So that's something good too. You guys can do. You know, this was good by him, and then both of you can cover both of the exits. Makes it much harder for. I mean, for the sum.
Sure.
So as soon as you see the Winston, something you can do is, because really, you know, what is sort of your win condition with this comp?
Is to get a pick. Enable our snipers to get a pick.
Yeah. So what is your role with this composition? Because obviously Diva has to change her style completely based on compositions. It's one of the most versatile heroes. But what is sort of your job?
Things to peel for my snipers and like I think it's mainly just a peel bot.
Yeah, and just like marking targets as well, right? The big one.
Yeah, mark the Sombra mainly, I think.
You can mark. I mean, just marking anyone. You know, say for instance, like if you see the Genji going right side, like you marking him adds a lot as well, because if you take him out of the fight and these guys dive, you know, if he's not in the fight, you can still shift in and potentially help your team, but you're taking one of the major damage sources out of the fight. If you take the tanks out of the fight, it's very difficult for them to do as much because your snipers can protect themselves. They have pocket, so just like identifying the biggest threat in the moment and taking them out of the fight is pretty much your job. Nice. So something you can do as well. So in this instance, what do you think you should be doing? What is the biggest threat that you could prevent in like from watching from now, like in the initial? Right.
I could boop the monkey back, but
yeah. 100%.
Would that be? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was just a bit too slow on it because I was focusing on the Sombra for too long.
Yeah. And now 25 seconds have passed, so most likely you will not really find her. Now she's probably set up in a good position, so your focus should shift. You've already, you know, lost, so to speak. You've lost out in the Sombra checking game, so now your focus shifts. Okay, how do I remove the next threat? I've failed to remove the Sombra threat, which is the hardest threat to remove. What is the next threat? So if the Genji hasn't flanked around, it's important that you can kind of push away their front line, because if their front line gets between you, like your front line and your back line, then you guys can get isolated. It's going to get tricky. But if you can push the Winston away, if you can boop him away, and there is no Winston bubble here on this platform, much easier for everyone else to operate as well. Yeah, because now he's created a lot of space. Like that. Now he's pushed up here. You guys have to cut back a little bit. Your snipers don't have as much room. Whereas if he's on the ground, your snipers can still use the shield and poke off the Diva, and you know, no problem. You guys can handle this. Now Genji gets to walk up a lot. Like everyone gets to take a lot of space, and you guys lost control of the platform, right? But if you guys boop the Winston, none of the, because he's been zapping everyone. Like he's probably up to like 40% of his primal now, which, and if you boop him off, it doesn't happen.
Help, Sino.
And now it's impossible to save because he took too much damage. He took too much damage. Yeah, so very important.
Yeah. I'm on monkey.
Monkey and Diva, we're all split up.
Yeah, I'm on auto.
Different parts of the map.
So how come you stopped shooting the monkey here?
I thought we were split and we had to stick together.
Monkey and Diva, we're all split
Especially since we already lost our Zen.
So I think I like this reaction. You're defending your Widow and you're shooting him. Your Widow goes back. So now you've sort of like this guy's vulnerable. So really, when he's overextended like this, most of the time you want to force him. You either want to kill him or force him to use his next cooldowns, next series of cooldowns defensively. either to defend himself with a bubble or to jump out, and that's going to relieve a lot of pressure.
I'm a monkey.
If you leave him like this behind, going to be very difficult for you guys to stop him. The rest of the flankers are going to be setting up. He's going to be able to just walk up, either walk up to you guys or just jump behind and kill your Widow.
Oh yeah.
So anytime the enemy Winston goes for like these long flanks or he ends up super far behind, usually a good idea to try and push him off and kill him, because you can kill him or at least force him to use cooldowns defensively.
Yeah, I'm on auto.
If possible. Like now the Genji's there too, but
I'm gonna
yeah.
see on Lucio. Yeah.
But killing that Lucio is going to be almost impossible.
Yeah, I'm on auto.
I'm gonna see on Lucio.
And you see?
Oh yeah. So I should have stayed on the monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, that fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you guys have already given up so much space. But the way you stabilize, like, so you guys lost space there. This is what you were holding, and they go behind you. So if you can force them, if you can force their tanks to jump behind here to get heals and still maintain this, then you can potentially maybe somehow bring the fight back still. But if you let them sit behind, then you don't really have this map control. Like you're not controlling this either, because they're flanking you as well. So you're just losing the entirety of the map. If you think in those terms.
Can we just go second point?
Yeah, you see, like, he killed everyone.
Go second point. I'm gonna keep Valk though.
I don't know if Valk
Was that you?
looks good.
Do they have MP? They might be close to MP here.
I think Valk
They might have Nanoblade. Watch out for Nanoblade, guys. That's the main.
I don't think
Someone is echoing in your team.
See,
Genji did a lot. I think
I'm pretty sure, yeah, they have Nano. They're gonna
Discord the tank and burn him.
they're gonna try to build it.
He's trying to poke for it.
Yeah.
Diva, do it.
Come on, come on.
Where's Monkey Discord?
A monkey Discord.
Diva's low.
Monkey Discord.
Okay.
Genji,
Genji dead.
Alright, let me see.
Diva's.
Diva, do it.
Oh, okay. So it's echoing because I can hear the VOD through you.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll mute myself just for a bit then.
Yeah, either mute yourself, and unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or if I ask you a question. Yeah, and moments like that when the VOD is paused.
Alright.
Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. So you guys go for a very weird comp here. You go Reinhardt, Brig, Mercy, McCree, Zen.
Diva, do it.
Come on, Diva.
Where's Monkey Discord?
A monkey Discord.
Diva's low.
Monkey Discord.
Okay.
Well, gonna be difficult for you
Genji dead.
guys to do much here.
Ooh, someone get on point. I'm gonna try to get on point.
Monkey, we can get on it, yeah.
But they overextended. You know, this is kind of the same concept that you just saw in first point, but you actually did what you were supposed to do, right? Like you guys, there Winston ended up behind you. You went out, went back, dealt with it, killed it, and negated the threat, and now you're controlling this, right? So almost an identical situation in terms of the concept. So very good illustration of why it's important, even though the composition is different and whatever. But you know, the point stays.
Lucio.
And now you have everyone in front of you. You know that there's no flankers. It's much easier to make decisions from here on
I
out.
can't get him. Ana dead?
Sombra main here. She's gonna try and get out.
Oh yeah. No, we don't have speed. We don't have speed.
She's right here though.
Yeah, she's dead.
Nice, speed kill.
Real life Papega.
I didn't.
Get out, back up.
I wasn't with you. Okay, they have EMP. They're coming up on EMP Nano Blade.
No, they use Nano. They have Blade though. EMP Blade. That's what they're gonna do. Yeah, spread.
Like something like Reaper or something, or I don't know, just something to.
I like your comms. Good comms. You're ult tracking. You're calling for your team. It's nice.
Counters.
Spread.
Counter it with bomb, right?
Yeah.
Calling for the spread. You're positioning in a way where you can potentially counter bomb. I like this.
I'm flanking. I'm on the side.
Ark, I say you play back and go for a Deadeye.
Nice
Yeah,
spy
Sombra's
checking.
left side. I hear Translocator left side.
Split up there.
Ball.
Bro.
Yeah. Sombra's on our Zen.
I got her. Oh, she's one. one. She's one in spawn. She's one in spawn.
Sorry,
She's one in
bomb.
spawn.
That's big. Wait, no.
Nice.
Definitely a winnable fight. This is super.
I'm on Lucio point.
Maybe heals him.
I'm on Diva.
Diva.
I'm on.
We just what am
I feel like I could have prevented the Zen death maybe. I think I was a bit too slow on the reaction there.
Well, it's
Not
a
sure.
bit tricky because you know that the Sombra is there. You know she has EMP, and if she EMPs you, then you lose this, and it's a tricky spot. Really, your Zen should be kind of positioned in a way where he's not when she has EMP that he's not reliant on you to save him, right?
Oh yeah.
If she doesn't have EMP, yeah, 100%. You should be saving him, but you really don't want to put yourself in a position where you go to try and save him. He hits the Zen with the EMP, he hits you with the EMP, and he takes your ult off the board. You just get demeched, and then you can never kill this Genji, right? So I don't really mind this too much. Like ideally, this guy shouldn't be next to you either. Like he should be next to your Zen, protecting him so that the Sombra can't kill him on his own. And then if both of them are there, Sombra dives, Winston dives. Even before the EMP comes out, you could potentially bomb in the air here a little earlier to like kind of protect them. Because if you think about it,
Yeah. I think our McCree had the ult as well, and he
Mhm.
was probably hiding so he can zone the engage as well.
this is big.
Oh yeah.
Because this means she can't get out, right? So because she throws this, because the only thing that I take away from this scenario is that you could have bombed a little earlier. Because
Yeah.
if she throws this in,
I could have bombed right there.
yeah, exactly. She has no escape. So she's probably going to panic EMP, even if someone else follows up to try and jump in. Still a lot of chances for you to get a kill there.
Sombra's on her Zen.
Yeah, because now like if she gets the EMP here on you, then you guys probably lose the fight. So yeah, probably just bomb a little earlier.
She's one in spawn. She's one in spawn.
Sorry,
She's one in
bomb.
That's big. Wait, no.
Definitely a winnable fight. This is super.
I'm on Lucio point.
Maybe heals him.
I'm on Diva.
Diva.
I'm on.
We just what am I? We can't chase.
Diva behind Sino.
We gotta go now.
I'm hacked. Lucio.
Somebody died.
Nice. You're
Still
great.
one.
Diva Discord.
Still one.
Lucio dead. Nice.
Anna, by yourself. Left side.
Hey, everyone, quick. Come over here.
Broken Thomas, thanks to the fall.
Hey, get out. Okay.
They're switching to Sombra goats. Maybe just goats. I don't know.
So I can hear you breathing now. I don't know if it's in the VOD or
Oh yeah, that's probably me. I'm sorry about
Okay.
that.
yeah, it's just your microphone is super sensitive, so and I can hear myself and things like that. So yeah,
Sombra goes.
They're staying Sombra goats.
I just can't be speaking when you have your microphone open.
Save EMP. I'm gonna reaction that EMP.
Wait.
That was so funny.
Right.
Sombra goats. Save EMP. I'm gonna reaction that EMP.
Wait.
That was so funny.
They already used him.
Didn't they use them? Yeah, they used them.
They already used it. That was so
They
funny. I
used
just look
it.
in the back.
Yeah.
I hear propaganda is useless, and then Jack.
Dude, I don't know how I didn't get EMP'd.
No, he just used it in a 1v1 on useless. It's funny.
Staying Sombra goats. Save EMP.
Why do you not switch this guy?
I think we switched to this fight or next fight. Yeah, but I think we should have switched earlier. Obviously.
Yeah. As soon as you see them going this, need a Zarya. Because this makes it very weird for you to play. You can't really, your Reinhardt can't really trade. It's very awkward.
I'm gonna reaction that EMP.
Wait.
That was so funny.
They already used him.
They already used it. That was so
They
funny. I
used
just look
it.
in the back. I hear propaganda is useless, and then Jack.
Dude, I don't know how I didn't get EMP'd.
No, he just used it in a 1v1 on Jax.
I saw her translate.
Literally
And he
1
didn't have it.
HP.
They're going right side. Oh, they're on.
Well,
Yeah, our Zen was probably ready to. He thought they had EMP or something. So.
he missed the 5 times your teammates called that they had used it.
Yeah, he was our tryout. So.
Okay.
Oh.
Was
They
he
probably-
successful in
like-
completing his trial?
No. We wanted him, but he already joined another team. So.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Dude.
That's alright, you're alright.
That's it feels bad, man. Oh, and then he goes and positions himself there where he can't rejoin you. Okay. So this is for Zen players. Just take the L. You know, like you kind of messed up. Don't try to salvage this fight. Like there's nothing you can salvage. Just take it the best possible position. Don't isolate yourself further.
That's alright, you're alright.
D.Va's fine. Hey, watch out.
And now you shift after him. No reason for you to shift here. I guess in your mind you're like, oh, I have to save my Zen, but it's completely like you can't. You committing here exposes you to getting
Rush them.
yeah. And in general, so what is your mindset? What, like pre-fight mindset when you're playing against Sombra goats and you have like now you don't have goats, but if you have goats, what is your mindset as a diva?
Yeah, the problem is like usually Sombra goats, especially my goal is to mark the Sombra mainly, and prevent her from getting EMP as fast as she can.
So
I'm not sure if that's the thing, like that's how you play against Sombra goats, but
so
that's
in,
what I feel like
so
you should do.
in general, since you obviously have to think about where the Sombra is gonna be, where is the Sombra usually gonna be? How can you almost always know where she's gonna go?
Mostly in our like the opposite side from her team.
Right.
She's gonna always take off angles.
Yeah. So if this is your front line, this is the enemy front line. She's gonna be somewhere around here. So you can figure out what is the most likely angle here and try to interrupt that. So based on the enemy pathing, you should be adjusting your spamming patterns. Because right now,
Dude, I don't know how I didn't get EMP'd.
No, he just used it in a 1v1.
like you're not doing that,
Oh
I
yeah.
saw.
right? If they're going this way, she will most likely path this way. Right? So you can try to interrupt that. You can do that by maybe standing here. Shoot there, shoot main, shoot under, shoot here. Position yourself in a way where you can shoot. Again, it goes back to spy checking on first point. You positioned in your way where you could only shoot one angle in the beginning. But from here, you can potentially shoot all of them. You can interrupt all of. There's a higher chance that you find her. And if you find her once, and her translocator is bad and she translocates out there, and you see, you know, because you can see where the translocator goes, right? So say you catch the Sombra here, she translocate, and you see the animation going towards there, and the enemy Reinhardt is there, then you know that she's completely out of the fight. That's the cue for you guys to just rush them. If you have goats, like now you have the McCree, but if you have goats, like that's what you would do. But regardless, you should be positioned in a way to interrupt her path, and like you say, you can always predict that based on where your enemies are pathing. If they're pathing this way, most likely she's coming around there, or she's coming under, or you know she's going through main and going here. You know, those are the most likely options. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nintendo fan, thanks for the follow.
Saw her translate.
They're going right side. They're going right side. Oh, they're on.
Because the thing is, so now he just I don't know why he transes, but still, say the Sombra had snuck through, and the Sombra went there and tried to pressure him or try to hack him and whatever. You don't have LOS to save him. But if you were in this position, not only are you interrupting the potential paths, you also keep an eye on your Zen. So if he gets in trouble, you can immediately matrix him. He's never forced to trans. This might have been just a fat finger, but you know, this position in this situation just gives you so much more value.
They're going right side. They're going right side. Oh, they're on.
Dude. That's alright, you're alright.
So, how do you think he feels when he pressed his trans?
Not good.
So if you're a good teammate, what do you need to say in that situation?
Like it's fine, keep going. Yeah.
Exactly, that's what you should say. Well, how do you think he feels when he does that? He's trialing, and you go, "Oh, dude, come on." Like he's probably gonna feel even worse. Then he's gonna perform even worse, and then your guys are gonna be losing games because he's feeling bad. So important to be a good teammate and just say it's okay, right? Emil, it's okay. Don't worry. You know we can still win.
I usually try to be that day. I think I said. Never mind. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
You guys fight on. Hey, watch out, you're on.
Help! Yeah, Jackson.
You're
You're by yourself.
fight on point, fight on
Back
point.
up! Back up! Back up!
Yeah, like you see what I mean? Like when he makes this mistake, he saw they're way too far for you to catch up because your starting position was so far back. There's no need for you to shift because you just took like almost 300 damage that you shouldn't be taking. And obviously you don't have bubbles, so you have a lot less damage mitigation. Very important that you watch your HP a little bit. So don't try to save him if he's already out of reach. You know, try and control whatever's in your vicinity, whatever you can control. So you're not like flying back and forth around the map. That's why whenever you use your shift, get the most value out of this shift. What I was talking about in the first one. You chase that Winston, but neither you have cooldowns. Get the most out of that position. Push the Winston as much as possible before you shift away from him to the other side of the map. Because yeah, you are mobile, but to a certain extent. So yeah. Because you shifted, you had to use too much matrix. I mean, the biggest reason why you're losing is obviously you don't have a trance and you don't have Zarya bubbles, so you can't hold corners without Zarya bubbles, and your Zen is out of position. But because you shifted in too deep, you also used too much matrix, and you don't have the damage mitigation for your Reinhardt in a situation where you could have saved a lot of matrix. You should have had full matrix at this point. Yeah. And you can see how those mistakes kind of snowball. You don't have a shift to escape now either because you overshifted in the beginning of the fight, so...
Three of them are underneath.
Yeah.
You guys can do something there.
I'm still contesting. They don't
Nice.
Drop
Coming,
wrap a second,
coming.
drop wrap a second.
know. I'm trying.
On his one, on his one. On his one.
I'm on.
She's
I'm on Diva. Ryan. Ryan. Nice. Sombra shattered.
I like your comms.
Diva behind us. Ark, I think you probably switch.
Poor lad.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I think you might go Zarya. I think.
I like this. Like you're telling him to swap. You're reading the game. You're calling your targets. I like your comms. Very good comms for your rank.
You should go.
You're thinking about the game all the time. This is what a lot of people, even in your rank, like during dead time when they're not doing anything, when the fight is over, they just zone out. But you're always pressing tab and you're always thinking about the game. So very important because you don't waste time mid game, which is why you can see a lot of your. This guy is zoned out. Like he's not thinking about what he's gonna play. He's just thinking, no, let me shoot heads. Like my job is to shoot heads. And you're like, we almost lost that fight because you were on the wrong pick. So you're thinking about it and you're helping him avoid mistakes. So very good. I like that.
Yeah, dude, you should go Zarya, man. I'm sorry.
Wow, big sad.
McCree is not the pick here. I'm sorry.
No,
I
it's
don't know.
okay.
I don't know how. it's not
He
the
he
pick.
doesn't like playing Zarya. If Yeah, you they have- haven't they have- realized, so that's.
Well, it's the goat's meta.
That's
There are worse jails to be in than Zarya jail.
I have EMP. You know they have it. I have bomb though. I'm spread out.
I have.
Wait, just bait it again.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think you should-
okay. I'm hiding on the side.
The king, what are you doing? Didn't we
I
just
don't know. He probably wants to use High Noon.
didn't we just establish? Well, the thing is, even if he uses Hanun and you win that fight,
Yeah.
you could have spent this fight building a graviton, which is a 10 times more valuable ultimate.
Sure.
Flame of Zion. So if I see this, I'm like, dude, go and switch. But yeah, I guess you guys told him it's the king's fault. He's just a little stubborn.
Side.
Someone says in chat, quick ult and I switch, bro. That's totally his mindset.
I'm hiding on the side so you don't have Matrix.
I'm playing deep right side.
Yeah. So I'm hiding here for the EMP so I can peel bomb
Yeah, I get it. So is he.
it. RQ, you High Noon when they should fucking.
Yeah, something.
Where the EMP's at?
You got it.
It's big.
Yeah, bomb should have already been out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, something.
Where the EMP's at?
This is perfect as well because I think in this situation you can line it up like just towards the edge, right? You could potentially line it up towards the edge so you don't have to like fly around or whatever. I think this would be a good spot to just slide it off the edge and it would land right around the middle of the point, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
I think that was I think because he had High Noon, in my mindset I was like stays to DM the McCree.
Hmm.
But then thinking about it, he probably wouldn't get much value off of the
Yeah, or at the same time, like if you bomb and there's a bomb coming in there, maybe they're so focused on dodging the bomb that creates more room for him. But I mean, yeah, it depends. But really, your bomb is going to be the reliable counter. His ult, there's shields in the way. There's matrix. Him like appealing high noon is a much worse proposition than appealing bomb.
Sure. You got it. You got it. I got you.
I think. Let's see if he gets value. Yeah, you end up bombing anyway, right? Like you see, there's so many shields, he can't really pop it. He can't really like it zones them a little bit, but really what it does, it zones them away from your bomb now. Yeah. Oh, but you'd get 2 anyway, so that's nice. You get 3.
Break.
Right. But I think ultimately probably is better to just use it a little earlier.
Okay. Yeah. He broke shield. Arc broke shield. Okay, you probably should switch to Zarya now. Then he went Zarya.
Bro, just switch, bro. Just go Zarya, bro.
No. They're full goats now. They have Shatter now, right? What do they have? I think.
Nice. Like your teammates are just talking absolute garbage, and you're talking about what did they have? What did they like? Guys, ult check. You know what are we doing?
Yeah, that was the main issue with our team is we didn't clear comms with team fights, and that's what we're trying to focus on.
Yeah, and that's what I like, having a player like you who does that, who's focused on the game, doesn't get distracted. Like your teammates, they win a fight and then they just talk about different stuff, and then they lose a fight and they're like, oh, why did we lose the fight? It's like you weren't even optimally prepared for the fight. Like you didn't hash out all the scenarios because you just wasted so much time between fights. But at least you're trying to kind of reset them. So good job.
You have Shatter.
Someone in chat says, but he's 50% to high noon, bro. Just one more high noon, bro.
They use Shatter?
They might have Nano.
Yeah, I think just Nano.
They have Rally.
They don't have nade. Get Ryan.
I like this little off angle. In general, your starting positioning is a little defensive. When they start pathing, I can hear myself again if you can mute.
Oh.
Yeah. When they start pathing that way, you can immediately push up and either like immediately start here or even start here, right? Like if your front line is here, their front line is here, they're pushing into you, you have a little bit of an off angle here. If they start pressuring you, you can take the mega and fall back here, but you always have you're always holding an off angle. Because now you start here, and when the fight starts, you walk up to here, which is like now you have a nice little position. But yeah, just in general, it feels like a lot of fights you start a little further back than you should, and like your pre-fight positions could be a little better if you just read their pathing a little earlier, and that goes both for marking Sombras and for you know, say same thing with 3-3, right? So if you look here, like you already know, like they're already here, so you could already be there potentially, right?
Yeah, I think.
And then like your Lucio is riding here, you're here, your Reinhardt is here. Your Reinhardt can kite a little bit, and then your Lucio has a boop angle. You have a boop angle potentially, or you're just able to shoot them. They shoot you. It means your Reinhardt can pressure forward, right? Like these angles just open it up a lot for your Reinhardt. Make sense? Yeah. So just try to look where the enemies are pathing, and then think about like what is the best position for me based on this pathing. Because again, if they're playing Sombra goats, yeah, like this is probably the best position for you. You don't have to focus on this at all. You just focus on your back and shooting and spy checking. So it's just gonna shift based on
Pick just Nano.
They have Rally.
They don't have nade. Get Ryan. Briggs one. Ryan, no. Briggs. They don't have nade. Get Ryan. Briggs one. Briggs one.
What do you think about this commit?
I think I probably should have committed on the Rhine. Because I was probably the only one shooting the Brig there.
Yeah.
First of all, then second of all, I just boosted into their team. I could have been bashed. They don't have nade.
I think in general, because the fight is going so bad, it's not too bad to go like for a play to try and salvage something. But I think it depends on what target is low. So if this is a Lucio, but even then, like, it depends on the cooldown. So I think if this is a Lucio or a Zen that this low, then I don't mind it as much, because most likely the Brig would have already used her armor pack. You might be able to kill him and even get out if someone is this low. But because it's a Brig, as soon as she puts up her shield, you don't, like, because your frontline is here, you don't really have kill potential. Because she most likely has bash. Even if she doesn't, she can back off with her shield, and she's gonna get heals and resources, and you're just gonna die basically, and you're not gonna get the skill. So I think just paying attention to what which target
Briggs
this
one.
is.
Briggs one.
I see.
Yeah, you see, like, she's always gonna get peeled. So because she has shield, very difficult to kill.
Right, no.
Ryan 1.
Zarya's graph.
Oh, dude.
My ping just went the fuck up.
Huh?
My ping went really high.
Brother.
I think we should have played. We should have got ready to kite when they had nano. Like that. I think that was just a wrong in planning, cause
I think next we'll know that next time
'cause,
we
yeah.
can counter nano by saving speed or something.
because we called nano. I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we just replay that fight from a macro perspective, what you guys could have done better as a team.
Alright.
Yeah, mana.
What do they have? What do they have? I think they have shatter.
Only she could display.
Yeah,
They
don't have
use
people
shatter.
bomb.
They use
They don't
shatter.
have
They use
Run
shatter.
Discord.
They use shatter.
Nano. They might have nano.
They don't have shatter.
Yeah, I think just nano.
They have rally. They have rally. Choose rally.
Well, this is where you lose the fight. Like, you start the ult check too late, like I said, so you're not prepared. You just figured out that they have nano, but you guys haven't made a plan of what you're gonna do. Like, if you can easily just kite this out. Your Ryan goes for a pin, and now your Lucio isn't holding this position, so he's not ready to boost him out. So very easy for him to close the distance and deal so much damage. And he started by heal boosting and then swapped to speed, I think. So difficult for him to fall back. And yeah, maybe if this is your starting position as well, you draw a little bit aggro towards yourself, maybe it's easier for them to disengage too. So a lot of different things. Mostly it's just preparation, and then your Reinhardt not going in, then your Lucio and you not have an optimal positioning. So
They don't have.
if we just, because I hear you guys talking in comments about, why did we lose that fight? So
Yeah.
my take is mostly because of that.
They're ready to kite for the nano, and then go
They're
aggro after
speaking
that.
to us.
Cause they didn't have nade as well, so we could have gone.
Yeah, that's sort of what you guys, the conclusion that you seem to reach here too. Just we need to be ready to kite it. We need a plan, because you just barely in time figured out what ults they had, but there was no plan. So
Sombra.
Just watch out for the fair, though.
They're probably just gonna triple DPS.
Triple DPS.
Let's just. Is it lagging for you as well? the
yeah, it
video?
is. It is.
Yeah, I think it's just at the start.
Yeah.
It's better.
Okay, let's see. You guys just go Sombra.
Sombra Genji dive, I think.
Wait.
We switched to the break.
I'm going. Oh shit.
Well, you have the same spray as I do on Diva. Nice.
Hey, where do we run? Nano or Zen?
We'll find
We'll
out.
try.
Just wait here. Don't get picked by a potential widow.
Oh, they have an Orisa.
They have an Orisa? Okay.
They have a
let's
Diva.
just go-
Orisa pharmacy.
Yeah.
Let's just go dive.
Yeah, they're doing the pharmacy dive, pharmacy bunker.
And they have somebody hiding around the corner. Never mind.
If we do this, okay?
They have a widow.
What are we doing? Wait, what are we doing? Widow, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're diving Widow. We're diving this, okay?
They have a widow.
What are we doing?
Yeah, another issue I think is
Yeah,
I don't like I think I have problems playing dive
Mm-hmm.
as Diva. I'm not sure which.
I mean,
especially against
it's a
top
completely
laner.
it's a completely different play style. So if you only play Diva and Goats, then yeah, like, it's obviously gonna be different. It's the same thing with Double Sniper. It's different too. Like you said, you're pretty much a peel bot, but you didn't understand the concept of, well, if someone's super deep behind us in the backline, especially if it's a tank, I need to deal with him. I need to mark him, right? Like we saw 2 examples of that. So it's just like you have to change the mindset. So you have to understand how to play each side of the how to play Diva against each composition and what your win conditions is and so on. So now that you see these compositions, what do you think? Like, what is generally going to be your job?
Dive with the Winston, and protect him, because we're mainly we're playing for EMP and Blade here, right?
Yeah, like you have a lot of clear win conditions with these ultimates.
So we're just looking to dive, try to kill a target. If not, then get out alive and farm nano.
So
And yeah, dive the Widow as well.
yeah,
And
so no, these guys, they're not really threats directly. They're not threats that you can directly, like you don't have to peel for your backline really against these DPS. So yeah, your job becomes, how do I support my flankers and my Winston in getting these kills? And how do I potentially kill catch myself? Like, how do I find openings where I can catch these kills? Because there might be openings where, say, Widow's playing here, your Winston jumps on her, she grapples away. Like, what sort of happened to you guys on first point? Remember, like you went back to peel, right? So there might be similar openings where your Winston dives, their enemy Diva goes back to peel, their Widow grapples over here, and then you still have your shift, and you can shift and potentially catch her, right? Like making sure you understand when these kind of openings present themselves, so that you don't get in a situation where both of you go on the Widow, and then their Diva peels it off, she grapples off, and then both of you guys are kind of in dead space when you're not doing anything, right? Like when they were doing it, it was kind of effective because it was only the Winston. So if you would have peeled the Winston on that first point, it would have been kind of a 1 versus 1. So yeah, just reallocating resources, understanding that both of these guys have a lot of mobility. So there'll be a lot of time, you will most likely not be able to dive and get a kill immediately. You'll probably soft dive. You're gonna wait for your cooldowns. You're gonna look for a dive again. That's what they did, right? They soft dove. They took over the platform. The map opened up, and then they dove for kills. Your enemies, right? So you sort of have to make those reads as well. So let's see how you do.
Widow, we're diving Widow. We're on Widow, we're on Widow. Okay, okay.
Drop here. I can dive into them.
She's on behind the Risa barrier right now.
Go fast, nice.
I'm just gonna flank behind.
Oh, wait for my amp.
ready when you are.
I can dive whenever. Ready? Ready?
Then one.
Go, 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 go.
I'm in.
I'm on Mercy.
My man.
I'm in.
Mercy 1, Mercy 1.
Widow hacked, Widow
Well, I'm on Widow.
Widow.
I'm on Widow.
Junkrat behind you guys. Then one.
Go, 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 go.
I'm in.
I'm on Mercy.
Yeah, I think our target focus was a bit over the place.
Then one.
Go, 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 go.
So you say, ready, let's dive. And then, but there's no target before the dive. Like before everyone uses their cooldowns, it's good to have a target. Especially if you're some, like now you guys have a pretty good setup. Your Winston jumps in from one angle. You guys are coming from this angle. Your Sombra is coming from a third angle. You guys have a pretty good setup. It's just important to have the first target call can't come out, 5 seconds into the dive.
I'm in.
Ready when you are.
I can dive whenever. Ready? Ready?
Then one.
Go, 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 go.
I'm in.
I'm on Mercy.
Your starting position could be a little further up too.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like a lot of whether it's goats, whether it's compositions like this, it feels like your pre-fight positioning is a little defensive a lot of times.
I can dive whenever.
Because in reality, like you could be hiding here around this corner, right? Like dodging the same spam, shorter distance. You can reach further. You can make reads faster, right?
Yeah.
Then one.
Because now this is a very long shift. You're gonna run out of fuel very early. But if you do this and you reach this point, you're gonna have like 50% more fuel at least.
Go, 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 go.
And your timing will be better, right? Like you could have easily
Yeah.
helped him and helped your Winston and landed in a better spot, like maybe landed on high ground.
I'm in.
Maybe landed here and then shot back at them.
One Mercy.
My man.
Because that's good. That's something you can do as well. Like look for these little high grounds to land on.
Go, 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 go.
Yeah.
I'm on Mercy.
You get better angles. Because you
Okay.
shift up here as well. Much better to just stand there potentially.
Mercy 1, Mercy 1.
But yeah, if you could have landed here and maybe even followed up.
Yeah.
But just a little further
Well, I'm
up
on
when you're
Widow.
getting ready for dives.
I'm on Widow.
Junkrat behind you guys.
Come on, Junkrat. Mercy, dead. Get Risa by herself.
Risa half by herself.
Junkrat behind you guys.
So something you need to be calling a lot as well is the tempo. So if you think about this situation,
One Junkrat.
you guys kill the Mercy. Huge pick. But again, if you think about how did your opponents play? They cleared this, they slowed down, they waited for their cooldowns, and then they went sort of together again, right?
Yeah.
Now you guys have lost your Ana, but they have also lost their Mercy. And you are 100 HP, you know that you aren't ready to go forward. This guy is dying, this guy is half HP. Completely fine to just slow down a little bit, stabilize, and then redive, right? Like, you guys have better spawns in this situation. And it's very important to say, I'm low, I can't dive. Just information like that.
Team dead. Get Rissa by.
Because you're calling Orisa, but this guy solo dives in the backline. And they can deal with him very easily. You can't help him. If you go with him, you're gonna die. So and from your position, you can make the read, because I can see that you are good at making reads, especially between fights. So it's just about feeding this little mid-fight information. Your mid-fight target calls are good, so just adding this into your repertoire, like reading the situation, slow down, I'm too low, we can't dive, wait for cooldowns, or something, like things like that. Even though he like finishes the target off, he gets traded as well, and it's kind of scrappy.
Rissa dead.
You guys get away with it, but you could have just as easily gotten DMAC'd. He could have died because he was 1 HP. Like, if their Diva was on your Genji dies. Maybe you get DMAC, your Winston dies, and then you don't have a frontline, and you maybe lose this fight. Like, now you guys get a bit lucky that you get these 3 kills, and none of you have gotten traded. But in reality, well, Winston has gotten traded. But in reality, there was a risk that many of you would have gotten traded. And yeah, your Sombra could just be getting a better position. You guys could be healing up, so. You know, I'm low, I can't dive, regroup mate, right? Like a clear order. Your Winston takes a more conservative approach, maybe maybe it's a cleaner fight.
Give me that ult charge, dude. Okay, I'm pushing up. Nick push with me.
Like this as well, asking for resources from your teammates to come and help you.
They have a McCree.
You have a lot of good communication fundamentals that a lot of people don't have. Like, even at the pro level, a lot of people don't call these things. So that's one of your biggest strengths.
They run McCree.
What is this? Keep dive?
They switch, they have Zarya.
Oh yeah, they switched goats.
They have goats, but they have a Junkrat.
Yeah, let's keep this one fight.
Okay.
Alright, let's try to find mana blade. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, we probably switch.
Reset.
No,
We have Nano Blade.
yeah, we have mana blade.
I know, I'm just gonna reset though. We're all dead.
I feel like you could have gotten out here. Just hide here, remech, and fly out. Potentially.
Nano Blade.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just gonna reset though. We're all dead.
They don't really have something that can immediately kill you and catch you. Like, they have a pretty weird comp. Like, only these guys can potentially reach you, and yeah, I think you would have had time to get out.
Wait, C9?
Someone's about to C9 though.
Wait.
Any C9ers? Nice take.
I stepped the Diva.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Actually,
Nice job, Nicholas.
that's a textbook organic viewing.
I saw Zentos like walk.
Okay, what do they have?
Again, everyone's so ecstatic about this tick, and they're just talking crap, and you're like, okay, so what are the ults, right? Very important to do this much faster. This doesn't matter. You guys have gotten one tick. Still far
They
away
have
from
tire. They have tire. That's why they're on.
Okay, yeah. They definitely have tire.
No, they just swapped those deal.
Yeah, just spread out.
Nice. Super good for you guys, because you guys want to set up a Nano Blade, and he tires. He should tire to counter, but he tires early, so it's just great for you.
That's on you, Genji. That's on. Okay, just get out.
Just res monkey forehead.
Res me?
Back up.
I got you.
Now you guys have a free Nano Blade next time.
They definitely, they're full good.
So now your job just becomes like, how do I enable Genji?
EMP.
Yeah, just EMP. Just use.
Again, like, they don't really have anyone who can threaten your backline too much. Like, of course, if they play at a very high tempo and they dive you first, they can. But in general, these two will be able to defend each other. So your job is like, how do I ensure that these guys get value?
Zola or else. At least EMP Nano Blade. And then maybe B if we need it. And then just try to. If we lose a fight, we switch goats.
Right there.
We're going?
Wait for Arc to get his EMP.
Oh shit.
I'll see you.
Yeah, like your Winston is very like he jumps early and he doesn't communicate his jumps a lot. Yeah.
The Zarya is out here. The Zarya
Yeah, can we get Zarya? Zarya behind you, monkey.
Diva hacked. Diva.
And that's why this happens, right? Because this isn't a coordinated dive. Like if you guys nano bladed in and then everyone jumped in together, you guys would be getting kills. So even if their Winston jumps your Ana would die, maybe, but you guys would be trading like 3 kills.
Yeah.
Not because he jumps in.
out here.
You guys haven't cleared them. Like they're playing above you. They're pressuring main too, but you have to help him because he jumps in too early,
Yeah.
and no one's helping your
Can we get Zarya?
backline.
Zarya behind
And
you.
you just wasted one of your biggest ult spikes. Like you're coming in with 6 ults. You don't want to let them farm their ults up, but now they get an opportunity to.
Diva hacked. Diva hacked. Diva hacked. Monkey one. Monkey one.
Diva can die, Diva can die.
Diva there?
That's big. Kill the baby.
One Zen.
Baby before she goes in.
Oh, she got bubble, dude.
Sacked.
And another thing as well, like
Yeah,
even if
MVP.
he jumps like this, it's like one of those other things. Like when you see people making a mistake, and I think you can tell that this is a mistake. Don't compromise your position just because someone else is making a huge mistake. Like, of course, I'm not gonna say never, because there will be times where you have to save someone because otherwise you just lose the fight. But remember the situation we said on when your Zen like zoomed in and went there, you trying to catch up to him put you in a really bad position. And the same thing here, you know, like he also has his ultimate. So if he has his ultimate, he can do stuff on his own. Like you don't have to baby him too much. So anytime you're playing dive compositions and your Winston does have his primal, focus is on ensuring that your backline stays alive and that your DPS gets set up. Like he's got to be freelancing. You don't have to care about him as much. And I do believe before this fight that he does have. Yeah, he does have. So
Yeah.
make a mental note
I
of this
wasn't
as
aware
well.
of that, yeah.
It's something like a lot of Winstons at the higher level call as well. Like I have primal, don't care about me, or don't heal me. You know, so you know maybe if he's going low and he tries to heal him or even throws a nade when he's gonna primal anyway, huge waste of a cooldown. So important that everyone makes this read and understands the implications of what this means. And also that this communicated, also that it's communicated. So in case someone doesn't make the read, you can help that, right? Because if he just called that, then you wouldn't have shifted after him, right?
And then maybe B if we need it. Yeah, and then just try to. Like we might waste nano on saving him.
Yeah.
If we lose a fight, we switch goats.
Because he didn't call it, no one else made a note of it. You know.
Wait for Arc to get his EMP.
Oh shit.
I'll see you.
The Zarya is out here. The Zarya
Yeah, can we get Zarya? Zarya behind you, monkey.
Diva hacked. Diva hacked. Diva hacked. Diva hacked. Monkey one. Monkey one.
Yeah, and now you're working with so little information because you were tunneled super hard on helping him, so you have no idea what's going on behind you.
Die, Diva can die.
Diva there?
That's big. Kill the baby.
And I was like so scrapped. Like this fight should not have been scrappy for you guys at all,
Baby before she goes
considering the
She
ultimates
got
you had.
bubble, dude.
Sacked. That's
in.
out
You're one.
short.
Sino, you're one, dude. We're on the.
Ana's coming from spawn. Let's go, man. Let's go.
Get that, get that.
Okay, get ready for EMP. Get ready.
Ready.
We have team now, we have team now.
Monkey in the back.
No target.
Yeah.
I can't even. That's fine.
Break on by yourself on the left.
Zen one. God damn it, you're kidding me.
Break.
We have team now.
So in general, good for Sombra. When she's EMPing, she's usually EMPing from a point where she can see most of the enemies. So good. What I generally like my Sombras to do is for them to be calling the initial target. She doesn't have to call too much pre-fight, I mean mid-fight, but just as she's using the MP, good if she calls it. Because then if she's shooting here, then you can just shift and this is a guaranteed kill immediately. But now you're not sure. Like, is this? Because she's looking here. But this should be the target. So very important, you know, if she calls the focus, then you can help follow up on the right target. You guys also, if you know that they have trance, you don't want to stack ultimates, because that's why you lose it. If you think about it, you use EMP, Nano, and Blade all within like 2 or 3 seconds. If you get the Zen kill great. But otherwise, a lot of the times, especially when you guys are retaking map control, you have to understand that you're probably gonna have to use an ult to force out an ult. So depending on the situation, like when this comes out, they're gonna use a support ult. Then you guys wait a turn, you wait 3 seconds, then you use your nano blade. Then maybe they use the beat or something, or maybe you EMP and then they beat, and then you wait, and then you maybe find a manual hack on the Zen, and then he has a freer blade. So waiting turns is very important in these fights when both teams have a lot of ultimates.
Yeah, I think that was just lack of planning because we didn't call what else they had. We used
Yeah. You guys everyone just pressed Q. You guys had no target, and you just blow the entirety of your ult economy.
Monkey in the back. On the island.
Monkey in the back, like most people are going on him, but yeah.
I can't even. That's alright.
Actually, usually, so I'll go back to what I said, because I'm like, well, your job is gonna be to protect your front line. So I mean, your flankers and set them up. So that's not entirely true and not always true, because you can see your Ana is dying every single fight to pretty much just to Winston, maybe Winston and Ana. So if he gets this trade, and even if you guys kill 2 people with the blade, they will out sustain you on point, and they have a brig, so they will out brawl you and they will win. So it's actually very important that you take care of the Ana here too, because now there are more threats to the backline. You know, if you remember the first point, Orisa, Diva, Widow, Junkrat, no threats, and your backline didn't really die. Like they're fine. Against this, their enemy Winston is going to be sitting above. Right, like if we go back, he's going to be sitting above you here most of the time. But if you can force him to use a defensive jump, so much pressure off your Ana's shoulders. She can do whatever she wants to. Maybe she can find a nade and then negate their trance. Like she can make a lot of plays. So yeah, like you diving with the Genji isn't going to do that much. Like if he messes up his blade, his nano blade, you being there or not being there, it generally isn't going to change as much as you peeling off and making sure that no one threatens your Ana and that your Ana gets to step forward.
I see.
Yeah. So again, anytime you're playing dive TT2 comps, before every fight, what is my objective? Do we have map control? Do we not have map control? Do they have any threats towards my backline? If so, how do I negate them? In what order do I negate them? And when I've negated them, then I can do whatever I want. It's the same thing that goes back to your first point defense, right? Like as soon as you, you know, like they jump behind you, you go back and deal with it. You negate it either by making him jump out or by killing him, and then you reset and you can focus forward, right? So especially when you're, actually it doesn't matter whether you're retaking or whether you have map control. It just depends on what composition they have and what the win condition is.
Monkey in the back. On the island. I can't even.
You know, like it doesn't matter that you're here doing a little bit of damage, especially since like he's going to be flying around. He's going to be flying there. When he has nano blade, like he either gets value or he doesn't. But at the same time, like if you would have forced the Winston to jump back, and that would have been the first step, you guys force him to jump back, and then he nano blades, and you know there's no threat towards your backline, then of course you should help him. Then
Yeah.
that becomes much more valuable use of your time.
Break on by yourself on the left.
Zen one. God damn it.
Monkey hack.
Monkey.
Monkey down,
Monkey
down.
dead. I'm throwing bomb.
Diva, Diva.
They might grab us. Watch out.
Zen point.
Zen point.
Zen dead. Switch goes. Yeah.
Go goats, bro.
It's one, dude.
I got her out of mag.
Worsted.
I'm going back to spawn.
Check if Diva switches. Just make sure.
Nice. You're using tab. Like this is so good. That you're just holding down tab between fights.
Cause
Super important.
she has ult. So yeah, she
Boom.
switched.
You know, very important because it impacts the next fight. Like if he doesn't swap, you guys can just W forward because they have a baby. So very good awareness.
She doesn't have bomb.
Guys, they have a Junkrat, I see.
Alright, ready?
The monkey's low. Monkey's.
Ready, Rocky, let's go.
Okay, they have grav here.
Yeah, you see like this guy. So now he just jumps in with primal, but generally like that's where he's gonna be sitting. And now you're playing goat, so it's a little different. It's not 2-2 anymore.
Yeah.
Behind you.
defense, and you kind of know how to play Diva into too. So.
Help, break.
Sandals dead, back up.
I'm trying to get a.
I know, you got booped,
Something you guys could have potentially foreseen, you know, that they have primal. They most likely want to get rid of that primal and immediately go to Reinhardt. So, and, you know, needed a better plan, a little more grouped up. So you guys have a counterplay for that because they popped that really early, but they had that opening because you guys were so split as well. It was very difficult for you guys to save the Reinhardt.
Yeah.
And your pathing was wrong as well based on the ultimate.
Rally. They're trying.
Right, like you guys were going here. It's much easier for the Winston to get value out of his ult here than it is if you if all of you just slow down and go here as a death ball. Like if he engages here, much more difficult because the rest of the team has to also push out here to follow up on it, right? But if you guys go here and he can boop in your Reinhardt there, they can be safe on the point and just shoot you guys. So
Yeah.
always have to think about your pathing if they have the Winston ult.
They have run now.
And that's, you know, mostly for goats.
We could go left side. Let's go
Yeah.
left side.
They're gonna try to rally into us. So just watch out. And stay away from wall.
Go to the room.
Santa one left side. It's right now.
Ready? Oh no, Rhino bubble.
No bubble, no. Heavy heals.
Trusting.
Diva behind us.
Diva.
Yeah, collapse on her.
Go back.
Lucio?
These rally. Don't fight aggro. Right, no. Zarya next. Break actually.
Nice boop.
She has bomb.
Nice boop on that break. I like it.
Break. Nice. Diva.
Diva.
Hey, where's Ryan? He might come up behind. Watch out.
He's in main, he went back to main.
Who are you on? Hop.
Are we on?
Speak. Go.
Grab, nice.
Nice.
Wait,
Break. I'm on break.
Sign up.
Zarya on your end. Zarya one.
Where's she?
Sorry, one point.
Lucio.
Break now.
Break. Diva has mag.
Diva.
Watch every shadow. Nice. Get Ryan behind us. It's Ryan. Okay.
The Zarya's coming on the right side.
Zarya might have graph. Zarya one. Nice. Lucio.
That's one. Doom Discord. Do one. Keep your Zarya alive.
This is Zen left side.
Oh, dude, I fed
Right,
him
fed him
chance.
chance.
Blah.
Unlucky.
We can shred him.
Stand left.
Discord.
Stand left side. Stand left side. Behind.
Diva.
Nick behind.
Zarya.
Nice.
Ball.
Blah.
Ball still.
I'm throwing bomb.
Oh, TCP.
Yeah.
Nice. We got it.
Diva one.
Ball.
Nice,
Nice
dude.
job, guys.
Honestly, I don't think you played that bad. I think when I look at you look higher than 3,600. Like if I would have to guess what your rank is, I think it's higher. I think your mid-fight calling is good. I think you mechanically you sort of know what you're doing. I think the most important stuff is pre-fight positioning.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you saw like a lot of times your pre-fight positioning is poor against like a bunch of compositions, and so you have to think about what is and you are a thinker. You think between fights, so I think it's very easy for you to implement. I think it's also good if you for every map that you guys are playing that you figure out what the optimal positions are. For you, like what are the optimal off angles, because it didn't seem like you were even thinking about like maybe using this angle. Which it's not great. Like it's not like you always have to play this. The position you played on your defense
They're gonna
on the bridge, like the position you played here is safer and it's decent too. But if your plan would have been to like give up this corner kite, then you guys holding these crossfires early, like then it becomes very valuable because it's part of your plan. They're gonna push into a crossfire. Yeah, I think better positions pre-fight where you can scout more. You can force Sombra out of Invis. Just like pre-fight positioning is a ton. Like even the dive on first point was a lot. But in terms of your 2-2 play, I think it's really just understanding what is your priority? And I think the mistakes that you made here in this map is basically, I think you can very easily reach the conclusion on what you need to do based on the enemy DPS and the enemy composition. I think you can figure out pretty easily, like when you saw what we talked about in the first point. No threat to your backline. I'm gonna be setting up my tanks and my DPS and potentially looking for kill catches myself. I can afford to overextend for kills a couple of times if it's a good kill, and not to worry too much about my supports. We're pushing into a team that has map control, that has high ground over us. We can't just jump in because they will just drop on our backline and kill them, and then still have their cooldowns to come and help, right? So I think just thinking about your composition and their composition is going to help you pre-fight a lot, to know what you're going to do. And a lot of times it's going to be clearing high grounds when they have mobile tanks who can play above you.
Yeah, I think it's because I'm so focused in between fights on ults and all this stuff that I get a disconnect between.
100%. Yeah, like the rest of your team isn't doing it. You have to police your team, which is why you get distracted from it a lot. Which is why I say, like, it's good if you going into a match, you already know sort of the good positions. You know exactly, like if they go here and they're goats, I'm going to be here or here. If they have Sombra, I'm going to be playing here. Right? If I'm countering, obviously I'm going to be hiding, but usually this is probably going to be the best position for me. If they path here, what is the next best position? I don't want you don't want to play bridge if they go this way, because Sombra can hack you from here, right? Like, you don't want to put yourself in that type of position. So, then you try to figure out what is the next best position. Where do I need to shoot? Where do I need to scout to make sure the Sombra doesn't get hacked? To make sure I don't get hacked.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So it's good if you just study and think about, like, especially if you know the map pool that you guys are going to play before a game or before a scrim block. It's going to make your life a little bit easier, because you do, in this team, it seems like you're carrying a pretty big load in terms of comms. So yeah, like, that's the only thing that can make you like a little bit more efficient, and understanding that concept of like clearing the tanks. If they overextend, punish them hard, right? Like we saw on the first one, like punish them hard, like you saw with what they were doing. Obviously you guys rolled them as well, but still, like, your ones overextended, they try to deal with it. So
I see.
Yeah, I mean, this VOD was pretty short. Was there anything? So I only do one map per session, but was there anything in Hanamura specifically? We can maybe go through a fight or two. That you.
No, it's because mainly I was playing Diva there.
Any like 2-2 scenarios? Because you said like 2-2 scenarios are where you're a little bit iffy. Was there any point during this VOD in Hanamura where you were like, oh, what about this? Or maybe one of the concepts that we have discussed would be good to balance.
I think it's because we play a lot more goats v goats, and I just wanted to get some feedback on that.
On your goats or in the 2-2?
On our first point defense.
Okay. So this is your attack. Let's see your first point defense.
On attack, we played attack bunker. Just
not very difficult. Protect the bastion, right?
Yeah, and hide the field from them too.
Yeah, but from your point of view as playing Diva, that's probably the easiest composition to play Diva in. Like, it's not very maybe you can catch someone when they're out of position, but mostly you're just defending your bastion. Make sure you eat nades, making sure you eat everything that might come at him.
Yeah, there goes. Anyone who crosses the line just gets fucked. Yeah.
So what do you think about your positioning right now?
I feel like I might be able to take an off angle like top right or above the wall.
And if you aren't playing an off angle, what do you think about your positioning?
I'm not sure.
So in general, like, brutal choke point for them to get through, right? Like, usually if they're gonna use speed boost, bubbles, and try to swing wild to get through this choke point, right?
Yeah, so you think we should be holding closer on the choke?
No, I'm just thinking about your positioning. Like, that's most likely what they're gonna do, right?
Yeah, because our plan is the the holding the line, the dash strat. So
Mm-hmm.
like anyone who crosses the choke is immediately dived on or rushed on.
Mm-hmm. But in terms of your positioning, so what happens if they just explode here and Reiner starts swinging?
I need a backup.
Right, but you're already in a position where, like, is they're gonna go for your Reinhardt, they're gonna swing in your Reinhardt, but you're gonna be taking the same damage as your Reinhardt is. And like,
Oh yeah, so
and like
just backup.
yeah, like we saw in
But-
Anubis, what happened when you remember on second point defense when you shifted in, and you were
Mhm.
taking so much unnecessary damage. That was because you were too close to the shield.
Yeah,
And you never you want him to absorb all the pressure and then you to save, because you don't want to take unnecessary damage so that the resources shift to you and away from him. You have to be really careful about your HP, which is why, like, yeah, either playing off angles and then as soon as you're absorbing pressure, making sure that you're still watching your HP, or just if you're playing behind shield, playing a little further behind so that you aren't within swing range. You never want to let the enemy Reinhardt swing on more than the Reinhardt. Like, that's best case scenario. That's what you should be aiming for, right?
The choke is the line.
But you're like, you're in front of the shield even.
There's a Diva tap
I'm on her.
Okay, you push her off. Yeah, like now it's good. You know, he pushed out. But if say the Diva didn't pop out here, say they just made this move without the Diva popping out there, you wouldn't have started from this position, and he would be swinging on you, the Brig, and the Reinhardt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could have been potentially there, or it could be here, or even here, or here. You just don't want to take these swings. That's one of the biggest things. Azure Phoenix and Kadam, thanks for the follows.
Ryan.
Because that was great. Like, this is great. Imagine if you were here and you were taking all this damage, you probably would have shifted out somewhere, right? And you would have been at 400 HP at this point. Maybe he would be shooting you. Maybe you would be getting demec'd here. You'd be under so much pressure. But because of this position, like, this is perfect for you, right? Like, you can do whatever you want. You already have your shift. You can pressure the Reinhardt from top. He can't really angle his shield like this because he has to angle it a little bit towards you. Because of that, your Zarya might sneak in damage. Like, he can get pressured from 3 different angles now. So he's like in a really bad spot just because you have this position and because you've watched your HP. Maybe not consciously, but this position has given you all of that, right?
Ryan.
Yeah,
Right
and you went off of that.
Zarya.
Keep going.
Ooh, nice.
Pull the Diva, didn't
I know. It worked this time, but sometimes it hasn't worked.
Yeah, but still, like, now you're back in the same position. Let's see what happens now. Okay, now, again, a little bit better distance. You can read when they're coming in. You can step back a little bit, so not too bad. I think, especially if they push around like this, you can still get this type of an angle. Because, yeah, like, if you do start here and they push more towards here, maybe... But you can still... Anytime you start on high ground, you can always drop and then fly wherever you want, right? So even if they push this way, you can drop and maybe Orion is falling back that way. You can pressure from this angle. Yeah.
We play the same thing.
Alright, whoever's past the line is
Yeah.
focused then.
Even here, you know? Like, you're being annoying. You're pulling Discord, but you're not taking too much damage.
Ryan. Wait, go in. Walk in.
Taking a lot of damage. Well, you have an Ana, so it's...
Ryan.
Ryan's so low.
What do you think about going in there?
It was a death trap, I think.
Yeah.
They
That's
got
what...
shattered.
That's like... Would you guys ever go in there?
No.
Right. Same thing like this, right? They've already secured the corner. You guys are going to be funneling through a corridor. Like, one fire strike goes through, he hits 4 people.
Yeah.
Right? You guys can't space out there. Your job is to defend this objective. So you don't really have to take a risk by pushing in there because they've already cleared this corner. They've already gotten through. Go for the next one, right? Like, there's no rush.
Yeah.
Maybe Lucio can ride up there, boop someone down. You can catch them here. Like, there's a lot of options. So there's no need to take this risk.
Wait, go in. I think it's because we rallied. I thought
Yeah.
just go.
Yeah, you guys shattered 2, so you wasted 2 ults. But as soon as they clear that, like, you don't have to rush. Like, the longer it takes for them to pass to the point, the better.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, so if you know, like, the Hollywood setup, most of the time the team on defense stands on the high ground on Hollywood, and then the Diva stands off to the side to kind of control the side angle to make sure that, you know, like, if you think about Hollywood, so let's say this is the choke point in Hollywood. Like this is the side door, and then your
Yeah.
team is standing on the high ground here, and then you can go like that through a little door here, right? So usually
Yeah.
your diva stands like this to block that, so that you can get the drop, she can get the boop on everyone, and it's sort of similar here. Like that's why you could potentially use this as well.
Yeah, I've seen some divas do that tactic. I was just
Yeah.
I was scared probably get blown up or something.
But at the same time, you do have quite a lot of
Yeah.
cover. If they rush you and commit a lot of resources, well, your Reinhardt is holding here. So even if they rush, unless you like overextend, yeah, obviously you have to read their movement, right? When the enemies are pushing in, you have to read their movement. You have to start backing off, and if you start backing off and they've called you as a target and they don't connect, they've lost the fight. Because now your Reinhardt is swinging on 4 people. Their supports can't cross because they haven't cleared the Reinhardt because you drew that aggro. So that's something you guys can do potentially. Like you're holding this. I mean, you're holding this. Your Reinhardt is holding this. You're like, there's plenty of different setups. Like everyone plays differently. Some people just play even more passive. Like they just force out bubbles, they disengage, and then they re-engage. Like it just depends on your style, what you want to do in that situation. But you know, it's a good way to potentially deny this, especially if you have ults. If you have ult advantage, which you do, the more if you have more ults than them, you have more room for error. So again, if you have this setup, they push you, maybe you even get bashed, but maybe you get armor pack and rally, you fly out like this. They've used a lot of cooldowns on you, you start trading, maybe your rally gets traded for a trance, maybe you get a better grab. Like there's so many scenarios that can happen. But yeah, because in reality it's great for you to hold off angles which interrupt their pathing or their kiting pathing. So since when they ended up here, you saw how valuable that was. But most likely they will not path like that way. That's
They'll
why,
path other way, yeah.
yeah, like they will path this way or they will path main, which is why like denying that is great, because now you're kind of useless, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Because they see that, right? Like they see that they don't have to rush you because all of you guys are just holding this. You guys aren't holding this, you know. Like if you look at your positioning, your brig isn't there either, right? Like if you look at your positioning, you're like everyone is on this side of the map, so you guys are holding this, and you're giving them the other side of the map. So of course, like they're not gonna push into you. They're just gonna go, okay, well, you're giving us this, we'll take it. If you're holding this, it's much harder. But the way you hold this is like you control here and control here and you control here. Like you try and control everything. Then they have to fight for this space. Now they got it for free.
Right.
Yeah. And you guys get rolled here.
Zarya might be getting out.
Huh?
No, we
Okay, you guys clutch it, but never mind. It's still sloppy.
yeah.
It's pre-fight setups. I think pre-fight setups is the most interesting to talk about because that's, I think, where you had a lot of issues with. Because we're not going to watch this fight in its entirety. I think just to give you a little more value, we can continue talking about those concepts.
Yeah.
I'm going high ground. Play safe. You have no heals for that.
I have grab. They have no trans. They have no trans. I'm gonna grab her.
So here, usually a lot of times during pre-fights when I know they have grab, I usually tend to flank or hide behind them at an angle. Like so when they walk in, I'm behind them and I have Matrix out. But the Zarya won't see me. I don't know if that's a good idea or is it like too punishable.
It can be. It depends. It's situational. There are situations when it's not really punishable when they don't really see you. But yeah, it's gonna be situational because it depends what state the fight is in. If it's very early in the fight, it's likely that they might notice you, and if they notice you, then you open yourself to being pressured, and if you get pressured, you might have to use Matrix, and that counteracts what you were trying to do altogether. What you were trying to do was to make sure she doesn't see you, and you can kind of time the Matrix. So it just depends. Like if you can get away with it, sure, it can be good, but yeah, it's gonna be situational. And sometimes it's even more like if your shield is here and you're here, and the enemy's iron knows that she can't like really get to you, that might even be more annoying than like flanking and potentially eating it.
Oh, okay.
Tell me when.
They have healing. They have healing.
I'm here.
She has grab.
So would you say the presence is more important than actually eating it? like me being there with Matrix existing rather than
No, again, it's situational because, yeah, I mean, it might delay the graviton, but also it might be harder for you to eat because eventually you will have to matrix, and then she will see the matrix. But if he doesn't see you at all, like if you're hiding there and he doesn't see you at all, then he has nothing to worry about. Maybe he's gonna grab and then boom, you yoink the grab. So it's probably gonna be easier for you to eat it if you're not behind shield, because she's less likely to take a risk when she sees you and she knows that you have matrix, because it's that mind game. So you're more likely to eat it, but also you're more likely to potentially
not eat it. Yeah.
you just get pressured, right? Like
Oh, yeah,
if they notice you, they push you out, and you have to use it to save yourself, and then that gives them the opening. So it's gonna be very dependent on the setup. Like, can you get behind them without seeing it? And you also have to think about the new matrix is gonna be 5 meters shorter as well, right? So if you like flank around them, but they push here, your matrix might not even reach it.
Yeah.
So that's something you have to consider as well. That's why I think with the new Diva, there's going to be more situations where you're probably going to be playing a little more defensive behind the run.
You ready?
Yeah, give we go.
Nice.
Oh shit, my nade. Fuck.
You ready?
Yeah, give we go.
Nice.
Oh shit, my nade. Fuck.
Zarya.
Yeah, and you do the 180 fake. That's nice.
Yeah.
Going to be also less effective with the new visibility thing, I think.
Yeah. I had like in the scuffed VOD, there was a point where the other Diva did it and it was so obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. So another good trick that's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
The Diva stun?
No more ult.
I ate it. Nice.
Oh my goodness.
The Diva stun?
So how do you use your Diva bomb in Goat's mirrors with countdowns?
I know. We watched the video with the how they started using Diva Bomb, and that's usually how I use it. Because I think this was a bit of an old VOD. We did Grav Bomb combos, but usually I tend to save the Diva Bomb for either a Grav, or if they're playing Sombra Goats, maybe the EMP if we don't have support ults.
Yeah, because now you guys have grabbed,
yeah.
so you guys should just be trying to follow up on it. You should be matrixing so that she can't counter grab, and that's how you win the fight. And if she still sneaks in a counter grab, then you immediately bomb it, because your grab is gonna end later. You know, you watch the video, so you understand the concept of screening the grab. So you need your Diva Bomb to protect your team from their graviton. Because now what it seems like you're doing is you're going for a bomb, and you just matrix, and you're very lucky to get this eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't need to eat it. Grab. Reinhardt is gonna walk up, maybe pin. You're just gonna matrix, make sure she doesn't grab. If she gets it, then you bomb. Because now you get the best of both worlds, but you're lucky.
I ate it. Nice.
If you would have bombed and she would have held it and she would have grabbed you now, then your bomb doesn't get anything. They block the bomb, and your Reinhardt can't pin.
Well,
yeah, exactly. And they can follow up and you can't. So this is a bad play that works out.
What did I say?
Now we can second it.
Oh fuck. Okay, they have shadow? Okay, it's fine. They just have shadow. Everyone stay behind Sino. Stay behind Sino.
Good. You're thinking about how to counter the shatter. You're protecting yourself. You're using high ground. It's something that in the previous review that I just did with the flex support, like I talked about, like using corners, using high ground, make sure you're protecting yourself from shatters, because you are responsible for protecting yourself from shatters, and like you're doing that, and you're even calling for your teammates. So now you're honest, but in a position where she can't get shattered either. So very good.
Yeah, I think like especially since I have the Matrix, it's my duty to
Break.
like.
Right. I'm on right.
I shouldn't be the one who gets caught in the ult.
Yeah, never.
I can.
Same thing with flex supports. Like they have to protect themselves with smart positioning. Yeah, that was a pretty nice bomb. You guys were so focused on their shatter that you completely forgot about the bomb. And you guys didn't have a plan for the bomb, because if you had, if they bomb in, let's just nano Ryan and push. And then if everyone knew that you guys are going to double you forward with a nano, maybe you even get this, you can potentially take a 6 versus 5 versus 5. 6 versus 5.5. Like I always count Baby Diva as half a person.
Mhm.
or alpha player. So that's well. It's also important to have plans around that, because now it was like a very defensive plan. You didn't have an offensive mindset with this, and which is why you lose. Very important to have plans for the Diva models. But yeah, I mean that's
Stay away from wall.
yeah. Like here, same thing. Like pre-fight positioning, not bad. Like you're playing an off angle. If they push out, you can hug this wall and really pressure them.
Yeah, I was hiding here because of the graph.
Yeah. But just in general, it's a better position for your pre-fight, right? Because on
Yeah.
first point you would have been standing here and taking the damage, or like standing here and taking the damage. When like standing here just to shoot doesn't give you much value. Same thing that we talked about in first point defense. Anubis, like shooting from that range doesn't give you a lot of damage. She's going to be walking up with a shield anyway. Much better to think about your pre-fight positioning, which is this. Like your Reiner's probably going to fall back here. You're shooting them in the back. You have a nice little crossfire. Maybe your Lucio rides above them a little bit, boops them out. Maybe you can boop them down. Like there's so many places that opens up if you're just playing this off angle. So now you're doing it. You're hiding it because of the grab, but this is just objectively the better position than playing here or here.
Oh, Zarya in it. Zarya.
Nice. Diva.
Right? You're doing so much damage. If you look at your ult charge, you start at 55.
Oh, Zarya in it. Zarya.
Yeah, no, you don't have to worry about a Reinhardt shield a single time.
Nice. Diva.
Right on point, my mate, with me. Right on point with me. I need your help.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, we split up and then we lose
Yeah.
2,
Yeah.
and I think we lose a point here.
Yeah.
Because our Lucio booped the Rhine when he shattered.
Yeah.
And some people drop.
Yeah, and it's
capitalize.
difficult. It's difficult because it's just a split call. Because if all of you follow, you guys have a 6 versus 5, and you can save your Reinhardt. Like this is a stupid pin. Like you shouldn't pin that far. You shouldn't pin out like that. You should go for a shorter pin or pin towards you. But yeah, like when he boops them, you guys can theoretically kill here, but then he calls that. Like your Reinhardt obviously can't follow. If that call is made, you can't follow your Reinhardt because you know that the rest of the team is going to be fighting there. So you don't want to make this like a 2 versus 5 and feed your mech as well.
Right on point with me. I need your help.
And he's also too deep, so it's very difficult. So now you end up very, very split. Your Zarya is here, your Reinhardt is over there. So yeah, not much you can do about that. But your pre-fight setup, much better. Let's see. Yeah. Same thing here.
Yeah. Stay away from all.
So you pull the bash. Nice. You're taking away the pressure. But still, like, they're focused on them. And if they would have all turned on you, then your Reinhardt would have had so much room, right? Did they
Because
grab?
the bash, I couldn't eat it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's one of those situations where maybe if they have the, when they have the graviton, you don't want to really put yourself in those situations. Same thing, like, if we go back to first point. So like we talked about,
Still go.
Anyone who this position right here might be pretty decent in a lot of situations, but maybe if they're coming with a graviton and you show yourself here and they just double you in and their brig solo splits and bashes you, that gives the opening for the grab, right? So again, based on the ultimates, you might have to change your positioning. Then off angling might not be the best, because now you see, like your mindset here was like, oh, this is always going to be the best because they have graviton, she might not see me, but you are also within bash range. So how do you manage that distance to the point where you can still eat it, but you're also not in a position to get hacked, but you're also making it hard for the Zarya, like you're making her turn around 180 degrees to see you. It's all going to be very situational based on the ultimates and based on the map and the map architecture and all that stuff.
Yeah, because I think I also get hacked a lot
Mm-hmm.
because of the angles, the positions I take.
Yeah, just pre-fight positioning, which is why I told you, like, one thing, just going into every, and I think as you're watching back your VODs now with replay system, just think about, don't watch the whole VOD. Just go through to the beginning of each fight and think about, could I have positioned myself better? And before this fight, based on the ultimates they had, based on the threats towards me, based on where we were holding, based on our composition, based on their composition, like use that, and like that's a very easy way you can track your progress and really think about each situation. You play a ranked game, takes literally like 3 minutes to go back to the beginning of each fight, and then a lot of the times you're probably going to be positioned correctly, and then those when you won't be, you'll be able to break them down and kind of think them through, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good method that you can use to change that. And then again, anytime you end up with in 2-2 compositions, just thinking about what's the priority? Do I need to peel, or who needs most help? Do I need to peel from my backline? And then once you've peeled off their backline, once you've shoved them back, once you're controlling the map, and there's a window when the enemy divers can't go for your backline because you force them to use their cooldowns defensively, that's when you can have a more proactive and forward-thinking mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other questions? Otherwise, we'll sort of be wrapping up.
I think that is it. I kind of just wished, because there was a VOD with Sombra goats in it, and but it was just kind of really scuffed. I just wished I could have had that ready. But yeah, thank you for everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, we at least touched a little bit on the Sombra goats, and I think the biggest thing I think that we touched on was the fact, like, your responsibilities, and your responsibilities don't change. You're in charge of the spy checking. You're in charge of protecting yourself from hacks, positioning yourself against EMPs. What we managed to touch on as well was you should bomb a little earlier. You were holding your bombs a little too long. Like, you were letting your McCree high noon. You were letting you saw her throw in the Translocator, but you waited with your bomb, right? Like, there's a lot of situations where that you bombed a little too late. So I think we still managed to touch on a couple. Obviously, we can't touch on everything because we ended up only seeing a little bit of
Sombra,
but I think we still touched on some fundamentals. And then I do have some videos where I talk about Sombra goats and talk about their win conditions and things like that. I also
I've watched them.
I did the review between Houston and San Francisco, so you can kind of look at how a very, very high level Sombra team in Houston played against San Francisco and won. I went through 3 maps where they played Sombra goats almost the entire way. Like, they played some DPS compositions as well, but you can maybe look back at that. I also have in the description of that video, I don't know if you've watched it, but in the description I have the comps. I have I uploaded it like yesterday or 2 days ago. So you have the comps for each map, so you can easily isolate and go to the map where you see like Sombra goats versus goats, and then I go through very, very, very in depth of how Houston uses their Sombra, how Shock deals with it, things they could have done better, things like that. Rock to Mars, thanks for the subscription. Oh, I actually realized I don't have the overlay right now on this window, but yeah, we'll sort that out. But yeah, I think that's that VOD can potentially help you as well, because I go very in depth, and you can kind of not only think about the win. I think just understanding win conditions for each team is going to help you, because you seem like a smart player. Once again, you think between fights. I think you're going to be able to get much better when it comes to all of that. Yeah. So yeah, we'll
also wanted to ask,
go on.
So if playing against Sombra goats, the Sombra's poking from the back, like she's poking in the back. Would I be? I'm with my team. Would I be the one leaving to like pressure her out the position? Like, for both, if she's very far away or if she's pretty close to us, would it just be B, or would the break also try to help?
It's again very, very situational. It depends on the distance between like you and the Sombra. Maybe sometimes you want to push away from the Sombra entirely so that she, so you push away from her entirely so that she's out of range, and then you're just doubling into the enemy team. But if they're managing distance, like in general against a good Sombra goods team, if you're just solo dealing with her or like pushing her to try and force her out, and the enemy team has LOS on her where they can provide her with resources, you're most likely just feeding your mech. So that's also, I think just watching that VOD will help you, the Houston Shock one that I uploaded, because it's going to make you think in a different way where, okay, my job here, I know that my team has an advantage in the front line. My job is here to just contain her and not feed her charge. And then there will be times where they're playing the sidelines very well, and you can understand and expect that she will be getting resources. She will, her Zarya, her Zen, everyone has LOS on her. So if I shift on her looking for the kill and she gets armor pack, orb, and bubble, I'm dead. I've just given them a free kill and I've given them 50% ult charge, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of times you will not be able to kill her. It's going to be situational. There will be times when she's like pushed around the corner and you know, the rest of the main group from their team won't be able to help her. Maybe you can kill her or force out the translocator that way, but you always have to think about risk and reward, right? Like you don't want to feed too much charge. You have to understand that if they play correctly and she gets resources, you're also going to be in trouble. You're not winning that 1v1 matchup ever. And also how to use cover, right? Like how to use the pay, like something Chobin did pretty well on their first point defense on Havana is like he was using cover a lot against Dante, and he managed to delay his ult charge a lot. He was never going for kills. He understood that, you know, he's not winning that duel, but he was using cover and he was just poking at him a little bit. And then and when his team won the fight in the front line, someone else would turn around and help him a little bit, like a Brig or a Batiste or whatever. But yeah, that's just to watch that. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of that. And if you have any, if you have any questions regarding that, then, you know, as always, to everyone who's part of the Mineral Miners community, just drop a question in the Ask Mineral channel, and I'll try to answer it. Even though we might have not have covered everything you might want to know about Sombra goats in this particular episode.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for watching, guys. To keep supporting this type of content and the channel, hit the magical subscribe and like buttons. Also, make sure you hop onto the Mineral Miners Discord to join the community and potentially take advantage of some coaching. You can find the link in the description box down below.